This stone is called the Heel Stone. The monument that begins to be seen behind it has a 5,000-year history and has withstood centuries of vandalism. So, let's talk about Stonehenge. Today on Dreamed Takeoff, we will visit this monument, built between the end of the Neolithic and the beginning of the Bronze Age. It has become one of the most famous places in England. Not surprisingly, it receives more than 1 million visitors every year. It's probably the most famous English tourist site outside of London. We were just touring London, so we took a train from Waterloo Station. In an hour and a half, we reached Salisbury, the town closest to the monument. The one-way trip cost us about $25. For us, it was the fastest route, but there are others that can also take you from London. Choose the one that best suits you. As soon as we arrived at Salisbury Station, we found a tourist bus called the Stonehenge Tour, which leaves quite regularly. There, we bought a round-trip ticket to Stonehenge for about $20. The journey lasts 30 minutes, and at the beginning, it gives you a tour of Salisbury, which is not bad. Finally, the bus leaves you at this stop. Here, a sign that says English Heritage Stonehenge welcomes you to the site. It also offers access to public toilets, which is well received after almost 2 hours of combined journeys. All of the above is part of the site's bus terminal. But the visitor center is a little further on, and you must walk along this route. The visitor center has a relatively modern aesthetic and is gradually discovered among the vegetation. Here you will find a very useful cafeteria to us at the end of the trip. A gift shop, toilets, and ticket offices to buy tickets. Although really, it is much better to buy them online, where you can save more than $5 if, instead of buying the ticket for the same day, you buy it in advance. It is worth mentioning that on June 20th, the entrance is free, because the park is full of people who gather here to watch the sunrise of the following day's solstice. Also here, you can take a shuttle bus to the monument. But we, at least on the way there, decided to continue the route walking, which takes no more than 5 minutes. Soon we began to see the silhouette of Stonehenge, which we knew was a cromlech-type monument. That is, with giant stones arranged on the ground to form a circular fence. Although Stonehenge takes all the photographs, other cromlechs exist in Great Britain, French Brittany, the Iberian Peninsula, Denmark, and Sweden. And the monument is this. It's like a version with a cultural upgrade of the Windows 95 background. Some comments on the internet say it is nothing more than a pile of stones. And yes, it is a pile of stones, just as we are a pile of cells. It all depends on how you choose to look. You can also decide to see a historical, or rather prehistorical, footprint of human capacity. Decide to see a window to the dawn of what we know as humanity. Or even the place where more than 500 English people were arrested at the end of the last century, something we will talk about at the end. You decide what you want to see. But if you decide to see a pile of stones, I would really recommend going somewhere else. We all have different tastes, but coming here will take you half a day at least for all the journeys you have to make. If you decide to see more, I think looking for some background on the place before, during, or after your visit is useful. Here are some, just to contextualize. Stonehenge is located on the Salisbury Plain in Wiltshire County. It has impressed people, literally, for thousands of years. Over time, some thought it was a Roman monument, and others attributed it to the magic of the famous wizard Merlin. But now we know that it is a prehistoric construction. Its first stones were erected at least in 3100 BC, over 5,000 years ago. That makes it one of the oldest examples of large-scale human engineering preserved to this day. Its construction would have taken between 1,000 and 1,500 years, making the Sagrada Familia look like an IKEA building. Stonehenge's structure consists of stones arranged in a circular formation, with lintel stones forming an outer ring and an inner horseshoe. The precision with which the stones were placed is impressive for their time. However, even though we are very much in the 21st century, several buildings have turned out worse and will last longer. The enormous stones, known as sarsens, are silicified sandstone rocks brought from Marlborough Downs, about 20 miles from the site. They weigh an average of 25 tons. So imagine the feat of their builders when carrying them. The smaller stones weigh between 2 and 5 tons and are called bluestones. But they were not an easier challenge because they brought them from the Preseli Mountains in Wales, more than 150 miles away. When magic had stopped being fashionable, instead of Merlin, some attributed this feat to the help of UFOs. Imagine being the people who sweated blood and tears moving these stones thousands of years ago, and now someone, for lack of ingenuity and effort, attributes your work to aliens, like throwing a blue stone at their heads. Now, why bring the stones from the Preseli Mountains? Their bluestones would have acoustic properties, but they would also be linked to the origin of the monument's builders. Bodies of people who had been previously cremated have been unearthed, and to whom a DNA analysis could not be done. However, more modern techniques were able to analyze their diet and identify that they came from those same mountains. If you like this video so far, please support us by liking and subscribing so you don't miss our next destinations. And we continue. You may wonder why they tried so hard. Some think that Stonehenge may have been a ritual complex or even a tomb, which would be supported by the bodies buried there. But others believe it was an astronomical observatory. That is because the stones are perfectly aligned with the winter and summer solstices. In their time, knowing the dates of the seasons was vital to plan planting and harvesting, produce food, and, basically, not die in the times before Uber Eats. So, spending 1,000 years perfecting a giant stone calendar resistant to environmental inclemencies may have been much more efficient and wise than it seems now that we have the calendar on our smartphones. In addition, the number of people needed for its construction suggests that it required enormous collaboration and social organization. Since Stonehenge was on a prehistoric trade and migration route, it was assumed to be a critical exchange point. But it was not the only one. Its surroundings are rich in other prehistoric monuments, such as the Avebury complex, which, together with Stonehenge and other associated sites, was designated a World Heritage Site in 1986. What we see today of this monument has been altered over time. In the 20th century, some stones were straightened or entirely raised after having fallen in their thousands of years. Even one had to be reinforced with metal rods, which must be the equivalent of an orthopedic hip for a megalithic monument. 3 perforations were made to insert the rods, and what was extracted when drilling was stolen. Only in 2019, one of the workers who kept one of the 3 pieces of core returned it after having it for 60 years. Of the other 2 pieces, nothing is known. But it has fared worse. Initially, there were supposed to be 80 giant stones. Today, there are only 52 left because many were stolen for construction in the Middle Ages. Also, as I said, gathering here for the summer solstice has been customary for years. This even led to the Free Festival, which has been organized for that date since 1975. Unfortunately, by the end of the 1970s, the damage had become so extensive that a perimeter barrier was put up. But not even that has saved it. On June 19th, 2024, 2 Just Stop Oil protesters damaged 3 stones by throwing orange powder paint at them. Later, an air blower removed the paint. To top it off, the protest was counterproductive because people were more concerned about vandalism than about climate change. Can you still come to the Free Festival? Well, it only lasted 10 years. Everything would end in 1985 with the so-called Battle of Beanfield. A court order prohibited the festival, but 600 travelers tried to arrive anyway. Some 1,300 police officers confronted them, leaving 16 travelers, 8 police officers hospitalized, and 537 prisoners in what was one of the most significant arrests in English legal history. Because Stonehenge continues to make history. When you go around the monument, you start to go back. But before you leave, don't forget to stop by the Neolithic houses installation right in front of the visitor center. Its purpose is to help you remember that the enormous monument you visited was built and inhabited by people who lived in houses like these. Here you can see Neolithic houses which recreate the remains of the houses of Durrington Walls, a nearby earthen ceremonial enclosure. That site was excavated in 2006, and radiocarbon dating showed it was contemporary with Stonehenge. The website says you can also find volunteers who tell you the house's history and show everyday activities of the time. But I didn't see any. And that's better. That kind of interaction makes me a little uncomfortable. I prefer videos, and once you've seen the houses, all that remains is to take the road back to the bus station to return to London. If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next destination here on Dreamed Takeoff.